I'm okay with states taking way more of a role in all of this. That is a key piece of what conservatives believe, is that we don't want a large federal government. We're not cutting daycare.
Are you okay with cutting Medicaid in order to fund the military?
I'm okay with cutting out the fraud, waste, and abuse, which is precisely what he was talking about.
In this video, Adam Mockler returned to Abby Phillip's show for a panel discussion focused on Donald Trump's recent controversial statements. In this video, we will look at clips from that panel where Adam Mockler debates against right-wing commentators Lydia Moynihan, Peter Meijer, and Jason Rantz, also known as Captain Eyebrows. I also share my own thoughts, so let's watch into it together.
Last night, Donald Trump tried to sell the American people on his war in Iran in a primetime address to the nation, but comments that he made in a closed-door event just hours earlier epitomized his struggle to make the case. In remarks that were briefly posted and then taken down by the White House yesterday, Trump said that the federal government ought to focus on certain priorities.
The United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it, too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes. But they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up. But it's not possible for us to take care of daycare. Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things, they can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing, military protection.
In an attempt to clarify those remarks, the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt claimed that Trump was being taken out of context and that he was talking about the importance of rooting out fraud in Democratic states. Leavitt wrote, the Trump economic agenda will continue to lower costs for hardworking American families. President Trump saying that after he used to say things like this back in 2016 on the campaign trail is also what makes this surprising. Listen.
The people opposing us are the same people who and think of this, who've wasted $6 trillion on wars in the Middle East. We could have rebuilt our country twice. That have produced only more terrorism, more death, more suffering. Imagine if that money had been spent right here in our home. We've totally destabilized the Middle East. And if you think about it, $6 trillion, and it was far better 15 years ago.
What happened to that Donald Trump, Lydia?
Well, I would like to point out, since a lot of people don't seem to know, the vast majority of the federal budget does go to entitlements, and the role of the government is to protect and defend its citizens. I don't know, maybe I missed a founding document where it said everyone should get free daycare, but I don't think it is in the Constitution. And to Caroline Leavitt's point, I do think this hits home because the fact of the matter is we are seeing states, whether it's fraudulent or not, are spending a fortune on some of these government programs. In New York and California, we're spending more than $100K on each homeless person with literally nothing to show for it. In states where we spend $30,000 on education, they have some of the worst scores, DC, whereas you look at Texas is spending $10K per student and actually performs much better. So I don't think money is the answer. If you look at how we've spent it, it doesn't really seem to be solving the problems.
10 years ago, Donald Trump did not think that
I
was
do think it's important to note.
He was arguing that we shouldn't be spending money on regime change wars overseas, and we should spend that money on our people here at home. That was a common refrain when he was running for president. That's one of the things that differentiated him from his competitors in that.
Yes, but the context of that original statement was about wars that he did not believe were in our best interests. He's obviously making a different case.
Who defines our best interest?
Now, the president of the United States and the people who represent us. They're part of the whole process.
So Barack Obama defined our best interest.
They weren't our best interest
and we can, I'm not saying it's illegitimate.
No, you just said they weren't in our best interest, but those were in our best interest by your own definition, because the president said they were in our best interest.
I don't know what conversation you're listening to. A president is able to say, I believe this is in our best interest. We all get to disagree with that 100% of the time, if we so choose, or
for now,
wait for it, we can actually agree with it. The statement that he made yesterday, if you rewind like 20 seconds before the segment, he was talking about Minnesota. And he was talking specifically about fraud. That's literally what he was saying going into that. And if you go over a little bit more, and I'm glad we included the clip at the end where he's talking about the defense, that was the context of the statement. So they're two completely different things. Valid to disagree with either of them, but that's actually what he said.
Even with the context of the statement, it makes no sense. So
it makes plenty of sense.
So we're going to kick Medicaid back to the states.
No,
we're going to kick Medicaid. Listen,
that's
we're going to kick Medicaid back to the states, and we're going to raise taxes on a state level, but then maybe lower it on a federal level to equalize it. This makes no sense whatsoever. And how do you think this is going to play for the American people come to midterms? We're saying we're going to have to sacrifice Medicaid.
I think
sacrifice
taking him out of context is a really smart strategy in that ad.
Is he out of context 24/7? Because everything he says goes against his own best interest.
No, that was completely out of context. And you're taking him out of context.
Are you okay with throwing Medicaid back to the states?
I'm okay with states taking way more of a role in all of this. That is a key piece of what conservatives
Are you
believe,
okay with
is that we don't want a large
daycare?
federal government. And we're not cutting daycare.
Are you okay with cutting Medicaid in order to
I'm
fund
okay
the military?
with cutting out the fraud, waste, and abuse, which
That's
is
not-
precisely
that
what
is
he
not
was
what he
talking
said.
about. Go listen to the
How
speech.
many people have been arrested?
Did you listen to the full speech?
How many people have been arrested
Did you
due to Nick
listen to
Shirley?
the full speech?
Yes, I did. It was a lunch.
So you're arguing. You listened to the full speech, and you're saying that he wasn't talking about Minnesota
Okay,
fraud.
how many people
That's what
in
you're saying
Minnesota
right
have
now?
they prosecuted due to Nick Shirley's video? How many people have they prosecuted due to Nick Shirley?
I don't know.
Zero. If this
The
Nick
video
Shirley
that just
video
came out not long ago. Yes,
in November,
I'm sure
zero prosecution,
so
zero
there's no fraud.
indictments.
We're back to there's
All
no
right.
fraud in Minnesota.
No, I mean, why?
Okay. All right, look.
I want to pause here for a moment. I really enjoy watching Adam Mockler push back and challenge strong reactions from right-wing commentators like Jason Rantz in these debates. This is also a clear example of how many common right-wing talking points come up in just a few minutes during this panel between Jason Rantz and Lydia Moynihan. Almost every time these guests appear on Abby Phillip's show, the argument goes in the same direction. Instead of taking Donald Trump's words directly, they often argue that he did not really mean it, or that it is taken out of context, and then try to reframe it in another way. For example, when people react strongly to comments about cutting daycare, they will claim the statement was misunderstood or not meant literally, even though the wording is very direct. A similar pattern shows up when comparisons are made with other countries. If someone points out that countries like Sweden already manage certain policies, the response is often that the United States is too large and too different for that comparison to work. That argument is repeated often, even though the U.S. is a very wealthy and powerful country with huge resources. To many viewers, that can feel inconsistent, especially when the discussion shifts toward priorities like military spending versus social support programs. It raises the question of why defense spending is treated as untouchable, while programs like healthcare, education, daycare, and support for vulnerable people are constantly debated or reduced. When Lydia Moynihan talks about protecting citizens, it also opens up a bigger debate about what protection actually means, whether it is military strength or also making sure people can access medical care, education, and basic support without falling into crisis. The conversation also touches on concerns about budget priorities, especially when military spending is extremely high, while other social programs are often discussed as if they are too expensive. Recently, there have also been claims about expanding defense budgets even further, which adds to the debate about how government spending should be balanced and whether cuts in social areas are justified to support military increases.
Of this whole debate are going to run on this, okay? As you know, Chris Murphy says, this is what we run on in the fall. Also, the corruption. Rokana says, Trump says we can pay for a war with Iran, but we can't afford childcare. House Democrats said, Trump says there's no money for daycare or health care, but plenty for his war with Iran. It doesn't help that the bill for the war is believed to be about $1 billion per day. The Trump administration is considering a $200 billion supplemental. There is real money that is being thrown at this war at a time when the House Republicans are saying we can't fund subsidies for health care. We can't fund really anything. We've got to cut. I mean, I think that is going to, regardless of the context of that statement, the fact of the situation is going to be a midterm issue.
100%. And I think one of the challenges that you have in government is nobody wants to pay an ounce for prevention, but ex post, once that attack happens, once that war is on, money will come in. But I would much rather spend, the ounce today than have to deal with the pound later. And this is where, with the Trump administration on the defense side of the House, they're trying to get closer to a 5% of GDP defense budget, which I think is right and appropriate. That's getting us back to Cold War levels, because above all else, they are fearful and they are right to do so. And it is appropriate for them to do everything in their power to forestall a great power conflict between the U.S. and China. That would cost, at a minimum, $10 trillion, hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of American lives in that conflict would wreak havoc on the global economy and be a true world war. So if spending over the next few years an incremental $1 trillion in order to forestall that, That is a wise investment.
So I'm gonna piggyback on what Peter just said, which is that an ounce of prevention is going to be better than what happens later in paying for it. If we get child care and education and services for kids, that means there's going to be fewer kids going into the prison system later. No, wait a minute. No, let me finish my point. Let me finish my point.
So at the end of the day,
so we are not every battle that we are fighting is kinetic.
No.
Some of these battles and competitions we're fighting with countries like China. You worry about the international competition. I am worried about that too. And the question for me is, are we going to have children in America prepared to take on the fight they're going to have? Are we going to have entrepreneurs who are going to prepare to build companies to be able to battle
if
that?
we have school choice in the Mississippi model, yes.
Do you think spending billions of dollars?
I think it's better. Let me tell you this. I met a woman who was an entrepreneur who said that she was building a company and she had to stop building her company every day at 3 o'clock because she had to get her kid out of school. Mm-hmm. If we gave her childcare, she would be able to have 2 more hours of taking care of her company and building that. Workers who can't work extra shifts because they can't afford to get childcare. We can have a more competitive economic country.
That's got to be the last. That's got to be the last word. That's got to be the last word there. Coming up next.
All right. I wish that Adam Mockler or Jamal Bowman had clearly said, and they did touch on it briefly, but I wish they had really focused on this point. Why is it that the same rules do not apply to the military? Why is it treated like an endless black hole of money? Maybe we should also control spending there and ask if it is actually being used wisely. Because it always seems like anything that helps ordinary people gets questioned. And Peter Meijer talks about the idea of an ounce of prevention, so why not apply that idea properly? Why not make sure every American can see a doctor without worrying about going bankrupt? Why not give everyone access to Medicare so people can go for regular checkups and we do not end up with people arriving at the emergency room with stage 4 cancer just because they couldn't afford a visit earlier? That is what real prevention looks like in healthcare, not using prevention as an excuse for starting more offensive wars. And if you are an American, I want you to think about what actually helps you more. Not worrying about medical bills, not risking bankruptcy when you get sick, even if you have insurance, not stressing about paying for your kids' college or your own education, or another war in the Middle East that mostly brings higher gas prices and makes everything more expensive. I even saw that Amazon is adding extra fees for sellers because of fuel costs. So I know I'm repeating myself, but it feels like on one side, people like Jason Rantz, Captain Eyebrows, Lydia Moynihan, and Peter Meijer always support unlimited money for wars while saying there is no money for regular citizens. And they say it is for protection, but at the same time, it often means starting conflicts that make life more expensive for everyone. And when people ask for affordable health care, affordable education, or affordable childcare, they are told there is no budget for that. But somehow there is always money for bombing other countries. It doesn't make sense. And this is the reality we are living in. And if Democrats like Ro Khanna understand this, then they should be running heavily on this message in the midterms, because it is powerful and clear. And people can say it is taken out of context, but the point is still there for everyone to see. And I do not see what is out of context about what was said. And this is how a lot of people on the right think. Unlimited funding for war, but no funding for you. So I want to know where you stand on this entire discussion. Let me know what you think about in the comment. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.